Hello, everyone. Welcome to the show. So, I am super excited. Tonight is the first episode of my new talk radio show, Essential Exchange. And this was created just a few weeks ago. I was interviewed by Pat Ford, who is the owner of the Coalition Talk Radio, and he offered me a spot to showcase kind of what I'm doing and just kind of create my own show. And so I'm taking it and running with it. So the name of the show is Essential Exchange. And I created this as a place for information, education, and stories to be shared. I feel like in this world that is very divided right now and disconnected, that it is essential for us to have community and connection. And so I thought, why not do it here? And today I have a special guest. Her name is Dawn Hanlon, and I've got to know her very well over the past year. It has been an honor and a pleasure to meet her in a little bit of a weird, unorthodox way, right? For anybody who has seen, I don't know if it was posted on my page, but I actually did an interview with Dawn last week on her podcast, Beautifully Broken.
Yeah.
And now she's here with me. So she is part of a coaching group that I had created again at the beginning of last year out of another group. And we have since become very good friends. Dawn is, I'm going to say is, but was an essential worker. She was a nurse for 37 years and she did a lot of home care during that time and definitely worked through this whole, COVID chaos we had going on. And Dawn actually contracted COVID. Actually, it's going to be your 1 year anniversary this month, right, Dawn?
Yeah, in 2 weeks.
In 2 weeks, right? And Dawn is actually a long haul, a COVID long hauler. For anybody that doesn't know what that means, that is people who have contracted COVID and they have long term symptoms that have not gone away. And I'm sure at some point during the show, we'll talk about that a little bit and a lot of other things. And so, unfortunately, a lot of things are just encompass COVID, right? No matter what we talk about these days, it turns into COVID and politics and all these other things. So we will talk about some of that stuff, but then we also want to put positive spins on some things that we had talked a little bit about on your show, right? And just kind of like what we have going on. How I've dragged you into now my new thing that I'm doing with Essential Embrace and some of the stuff that we're offering there. So, without further ado, I want to introduce you and say hello to my good friend Dawn. And I'm going to let Dawn talk a little bit about her experience being an essential worker, first and foremost, and then kind of what happened to the point where now she is no longer able to be a nurse and work in the medical field. And then we'll just kind of go from there.
Okay, thank you, Natalie, for having me on. I appreciate it. Um, yeah, I've been a nurse for 37 years, and most of that was done in the home care field, um, taking care of people that were coming out of hospitals and rehabs and needed to have nursing care, but they weren't sick enough to stay in the hospital or rehab. So they send them home, and then they send people like me in a couple of days a week to do dressing changes, do medication teaching, whatever it is. I always ended up with the patients that were like the death and dying. So during COVID, I was seeing those patients and the patients that were sick and needed to be in the hospital, but because the hospitals were full of COVID, they kept them at home. So we were taking care of patients that were like, some of them should have been on cardiac and ICU units, but they were in their homes and we were seeing them 3 or 4 days a week, some of them. And then the people that were still had COVID, but were not sick enough to stay in the hospital or to, they would go to the ER and they would say, you have COVID, go home. Then they would send me or one of my coworkers in 2 or 3 days a week to monitor them so that if they became sick enough that they had to go into the hospital, there would be someone there to make sure that happened. So that's what I did from the beginning of COVID until November of last year when I tested positive. And I tested every 2 weeks for my job because the the information was always changing
Hmm.
from the CDC. Every day you would get updates on your phone, and you could get as many as 10 or 20 a day with different mandates. Wear this mask, no, wear this mask, make sure you double glove, make sure you have booties on your shoes. I mean, we treated we treated all of our patients as if they were COVID positive, because in the very beginning patients were coming out of the hospital and rehabs and going home, and we would go in, and a week or so later we would get a notification from the hospital or rehab that, oh, by the way, they did come back positive. Well, we'd already been seeing them, physical therapy,
Hmm.
speech therapy, home care nurse.
Exactly.
We'd been in there for a week or more. So I
Yeah.
just adopted the idea that I will dress as if the patients, for at least the first 2 weeks that they're mine, um, are COVID positive, because they said give them that 14-day window. So that's what I did with the N95s and uh, double gloving. And I wore an N95 mask with a cloth mask over it. And that way I
Hmm.
could wash the cloth mask every day. The N95s we did not have in large amounts. So we tried to make them last as long as we could. Um,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
you know,
So it
we did
sounds
the
like
best
you
we
took
could.
it sounds like you took every precaution that you could. You followed all the rules. You did everything that you should have done to protect yourself and your patients, and I'm sure your family and things like that. But
Yeah, we
in
did.
that,
But well, and that's just it. They gave us everything and we used it, but you know, it didn't just stop at work. I mean, I would come home from work and I
Mhm,
would go take a shower, throw all my clothes in the washer, and then go to my bedroom and
mhm,
finish my paperwork from the day, and that could take me till midnight. Um, because I was seeing patients, so many patients, and so helping other offices with their patient loads because they were short-handed, and we were all short-handed, and people getting sick or people unable to work because of medical
mhm,
predisposing illnesses, or so the doctor said you really can't be working around people who have COVID, you could die. So we were trying to pick up the slack, but I was isolating from my own family in my home every day.
mhm.
So I wasn't interacting
So
with
to
my
your
family, I wasn't seeing.
right. So to your knowledge and to your, um, just the information that you had, and from everything that you were told to do, you did. You protected yourself. You wore even when you didn't think or didn't know if they had COVID, just to be on the safe side. But yet you still contracted it. Correct?
Yeah, I followed all the rules. I did everything right. I did everything that was told by the state health department, by the county health department, by the CDC, by Johns Hopkins, because I'm right near Hopkins in Maryland
Hmm.
University. So anything that came out, our governor, anything that they recommended, I would implement. Um,
Hmm.
and we would joke that I smelled like alcohol because I had alcohol in a spray bottle and spray down my car and me in between patients, and wipe down. I
Hmm.
had baby wipes when I poured alcohol into the baby wipes to make alcohol wipes, and wipe down the dashboard and the knobs on the radio, the gear changer. I mean, anything I could touch or see, I would wipe down between patients, because I
Yeah.
was so worried about taking it to another patient, because I had a lot of cancer patients, and God
Hmm.
knows I didn't want to take it there, and I certainly didn't want to bring it home to my family. So, I live with two of my adult children, and so we were all living under the same roof, but very much isolated in our bedrooms when we were
Hmm.
home at the same time.
So, quick question: did anyone in your house end up getting COVID from when
No,
you
only me.
contracted it? Okay.
No,
And let's
just
talk
me.
about.
They tested multiple times, and the health department called and checked in with all of us a couple days a week. I'm the only one that got sick. And as soon as I came up positive, I didn't have any symptoms yet, but I went right into the basement and isolated into my basement on November 19th. And I was actively COVID positive until December 23rd. And
Wow.
except for 2 trips to the ER, um, I didn't see or interact with any human people at all. So
Mhm.
I didn't have any interaction with people except those 2 ER trips, the paramedics and then staff at the hospitals. Otherwise, I was just in my basement, actually where I am now.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
this is where I lived for 5 weeks. And
Mhm.
it was, just isolating. The total
Disconnected,
isolation without
lonely.
any human contact.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I was in
So,
pain, and I was going through all the symptoms that I was having. And when you are having trouble breathing and you're in excruciating pain and you can't even think and understand how to dial a phone to call 911 for yourself, and you're all by yourself, that's really hard.
very.
It was really hard and scary.
Yeah. So, I mean, again, I know you, so we've talked about it, and I know the story. And you went to the ER a couple of times, thinking you were having a stroke and a heart attack, and obviously, like you said, was not well, was not doing good. Um, I worked at the hospital, also contracted COVID, probably literally almost the same dates as you, because it was towards the end of November. It was like right before Thanksgiving that I came
Right.
out of the period of having to isolate and stuff like that. Um, I also was a cellar dweller because my room is downstairs in the basement, and I have 2 adult children that live with me as well, and so tried to just stay away from them as much as possible, and did a lot of resting and stuff because COVID makes you tired. I fortunately did not have a lot of symptoms. I didn't lose my smell or my taste. I felt like I had a fever, and like my eyes were glossy, and I had the red nose, and it looked like I had a fever. But I went to work every day and took my temperature, and I didn't have a fever, right? Um, and the only reason I think that I found out was I called my doctor because every year I have a cough and I have an inhaler, and I called and asked my doctor to refill my inhaler, and it was, no, you need to go get a COVID test. And what? Why? Like, what do you mean? I get this every year. It's a tickly cough, whatever. And then right after I called her, the funny thing was that I woke up like in a complete sweat just one night.
Yeah.
And so I went and got the test, and I was pretty adamant like it was not positive. Long story short, where I worked in the ER in this special unit that is very, it's closed and small, because it's behavioral psychiatric, and so there's only a dozen ish beds, and not all protocols were followed, or things were kind of like left by the wayside because it was so crazy busy in the ER and things like that. And so someone came in and, like you said, didn't find out until after the patient left, and was exposed to other patients and exposed to all of us. And now, unlike you, I'll say, where we were, we didn't always, we rarely N95'd because, again, the supplies were very limited, and we weren't out in the regular ER. We were in this little congregated area, and nobody medical even comes into that area. They're medical, they stay out. Um, and they all had to be tested before they came in. And if they were COVID positive, they did not come into our unit. However, as time went on, frustrations grew and things like that. People were put in there that shouldn't have been in there. And long story short, I can see more where I contracted it because we didn't know somebody had it. We were not N95'd and all geared up like you were all the time, because our unit was more open and free. And it just, like I said, it wasn't sick patients and it wasn't COVID patients and things like that. So your susceptibility or your ability to catch COVID would be a lot easier than someone who is, like out in the ER, they were all geared up from head to toe and all of their stuff
Right.
all the time. And like I said, fortunately, I didn't have a lot of, it wasn't much worse than like a flu really, besides the long-term ish of a few weeks tiredness. Now your story is completely different. You
Oh,
did
I would trade
everything.
you. I will trade you.
I know. I know. I feel terrible because I know what I did and what you did. And like I said, the precautions that you took in comparison to mine, and just on and on. And then, my story is like, well, I had it, it wasn't so bad. And then there's you. So tell us about the
Yeah,
long
and I
haul stuff.
didn't
So,
I didn't even know that was a thing. I had no idea.
mhm,
Um,
yeah.
right before I got sick, we had been seeing where patients were starting to have like, and it was older people predominantly,
Hmm.
where I had a couple who both had COVID. They were both hospitalized. They both were sent home together. So I was seeing them, they live together and they're
Hmm.
isolated in their home together. Um, where he had developed a heart problem that he'd never had before. And she was a
Hmm.
borderline diabetic, and now she needed diabetic medicine and insulin. So I was
Hmm.
teaching him about his heart problem and teaching her about the insulin and how to monitor their respirations and check their oxygen levels and their blood pressure and all of that. So we had started noticing more patients were starting to have um, things that may have been a slight issue prior to getting COVID, after COVID seemed to become a bigger issue. We had patients that had kidney disease that now needed dialysis. So I knew that their other body systems were affected, but I didn't
Hmm.
know that long haul COVID was a thing. I didn't know. I thought when I was positive, um, I was asymptomatic and I could have had it for a week or more before I even showed symptoms, um,
Hmm.
because I got tested every 2 weeks. So tested positive on a Thursday and I was really tired and run down, but I was really tired and run down for months because I was working all the time,
Yeah. Hmm.
and not sleeping and not eating. And, I would fall asleep with a fork in my mouth while doing my
So
paperwork at midnight.
can I say
Um,
something to that? Can I say something to that?
mhm.
Because it just kind of like came to me that, like, like I said, I didn't take as many precautions as you, and I was, exposed probably sometimes when I shouldn't have been, and all of this other stuff. However, you just said something that is really important, and like kind of the whole reason why I started Essential Embrace, which is my Facebook support group that is turning into a phenomenal organization. And the premise of it is self-care for healthcare, right? Where we are offering free programs, yoga, um, information, affirmations. Thank you, Dawn. And just a lot
Yeah.
of other things for people, essential workers, right? It started where it was going to be for essential workers who were going to lose their job because of the mandates. But I
Right.
realized, again, just like I said with Essential Exchange, we are so divided and disconnected that I was like, we need to be together, right? And Dawn and I will talk about this because we talked about it before, how we're kind of on different opposing ends, but yet we're not, right? And so I just want to point out that Dawn said, she was run down, she was tired, she was fatigued
Yeah.
before all of this. So that could have contributed to your suppressed maybe immune system, and the fact that no matter
Right.
what you
And
were doing, you were more susceptible.
I have lupus as well. And I had been in
Okay.
remission
Mhm.
with my lupus and fibromyalgia for 10 years. So
Wow.
I had preemptively gone to the doctor and said, I'm seeing COVID patients. I've been doing really good, but I'm not on medication. So he said, let's go ahead and put you on medicine just to make sure you're going to be okay. And
Mhm.
so I had done that several months before I got sick. And I was
Mhm.
positive 4 or 5 days before I showed first symptoms. And every day for 3.5 weeks, I had new symptoms develop. And the old ones didn't go away. The new ones just piled on top. I had every symptom of every strain known up to November of last year, except I never lost my taste or smell. I never lost
Interesting.
those, but I have the neurological, stroke symptoms, heart attack symptoms, my heart and my brain and my neurological system have been damaged, and memory loss, and I still have difficulty with reading and comprehension. I can't read more than a paragraph, um, and be able to retain the information. If I walk out of a room, I forget what I was doing. If I hang up a phone, I forget what the phone call was about. I've had a
Mhm.
conversation with my son, and 5 minutes later, I was like, "Did we just talk? Did you need something?" And
Yeah.
he's like, "Mom, we just had a whole conversation." I have no memory of the conversation. I get lost when I drive around the corner to the drugstore. I have to use my GPS. So I have, I for 3 months I couldn't read or write. The day that I was able to color in a coloring book with my 4-year-old granddaughter, she was like, "Grammy, you can color in the lines like me," and it was like such a big thing for me to be able to color in the lines like a 4-year-old, as good as a 4-year-old could. But and it's been not just that, but you know, leading up to the exhaustion and overworked and just feeling like there, no matter how much more you would take on and take on and take on, to help other people, and because I'm a nurse and that's what I do, I help people. But then when I was struggling, and I would say, I remember talking to one of the people in my office, and I said, "I quit. I can't do this. This is too much. I can't see. Don't give me another patient. I can't see anymore today. If
Mhm.
I have to
Mhm.
see this patient, I'm going to quit." And they're like, "No, no, 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 no. You're fine. You're fine. You can do it." And I was
Yeah.
like, "No,
Yeah.
I'm really done." Because I was just so mentally, physically, and emotionally exhausted from giving out to
Mhm.
everyone else. Um,
Exactly.
and then when I got
So
sick, and then I was so sick that I was so emotionally, mentally, and physically drained, I couldn't do anything when I was sick. I couldn't even get up and I couldn't do anything for myself at all, anything.
mhm. So, for people who don't know, the long haul symptoms, like she said, are memory loss because of effects on the brain. And she said, she'll have chest pains, or you said your heart beats like erratically sometimes and like fast,
Yeah, I
right?
get irregular heartbeats and palpitations, and I have my
And it
aortic
also
valve
causes you.
is weakened.
hmm And you said it also causes you to like get dizzy sometimes, right? Where you can't like bend over, or you have to be
Yeah,
careful when you're going upstairs and things like that.
yeah, I have. Right, if I bend over, like, to load the dishwasher or, like, pick up my shoes off the floor, I will, I get dizzy, or I just get really, off balance or confused. That
Hmm.
happens, nausea, vomiting, dizziness occurs randomly for no
Yeah.
reason. Some days I'm so exhausted I can't get out of bed.
So we have about 15 minutes left, and I want to make sure that, we share some of
Go
your
ahead.
stuff at the end as far as like what you're doing and your links and stuff like that. And what I want to tell you guys is this woman is amazing and incredible. I had the pleasure, like I said, and the honor of meeting her. She's in Maryland, I'm in Rhode Island. She also is a widow, okay? Like she's a widow with how many kids do you have? Six?
6 kids.
Six kids, adult kids, and grandkids. Okay. But this woman is amazing. So she was with her widow group and she was coming to Cape Cod, Massachusetts. And she really didn't even know where she was going or what she was doing. They just kind of told her, you're coming with us. Like, we're picking you up. That's it. Let's go. And when she told me where she was going, Cape Cod is a couple hours from me. And I said, oh my God, I have to meet you in person. So over the summer, I went to go meet her, and, I stayed overnight somewhere else in Mass, and she stayed with her group, and we met up the day of and then the next day. And it was amazing. But she's amazing because you hear her tell her stories about all these things that she's going through, and I connect with her on a regular basis, right, because of the coaching group, and now she's also in my Essential Embrace group. And the things that this woman does, despite her discomfort, despite her like sleeping 12 hours sometimes, and despite her getting up, and the poor thing, and we laugh about it because what else are you going to do, right, Dawn? So she'll get up and she'll go, "What was I
Yeah.
supposed to do? What was I supposed to do?" And she literally has sticky notes like all over, and she showed me all over her curtains and all over her. And I said, "Well, I'm just as bad. I could show you my computer right now, but she can't remember like what it was that she was supposed to. She has to literally write it down, put it. I send her messages all the time to remind her like to be here tonight and things like that. She looks like she has it all together. She appears like she's cognitively all, but she struggles. Like she really struggles. And, it's
Well,
really
and
upsetting to her sometimes.
I'll tell you, like, right now, my headache is really bad, and, like, my left eye is blurred, I can't hardly see out of it, and, what people don't understand, like, I have a headache that started November 22nd of last year, and it's never gone away, and it's like a
Yeah.
level 5 to 7 every day, and it sounds like cicadas in my head, and my whole head and my whole body vibrate like if you, um, what is that, a toothbrush, an electric toothbrush, how that
Oh,
vibrates in your
I
mouth.
can't
My
do
whole
those.
body vibrates 24/7
Mhm,
and it sounds
mhm.
like cicadas in my head. The first time I went outside and heard the cicadas this year, I was like, "Ah, that's what's been in my head since November. Cicadas have been in my head." So, but I've gotten used to it because what else am I gonna do? I have to keep the radio or TV on 24/7, to drown it out.
Mhm,
It's the only thing I
mhm.
can do.
But
And I can't give up
here's the
on it,
thing.
and but you can't give up. I can't give up on myself. I
Right.
because I told you once, I said, you know, my husband dying and my whole world turning upside down and being left like with nothing didn't kill me. I refused to let a microscopic organism do me in. So I refuse. It just
Yeah. Yeah.
that's how it is.
And good for you. But what I want people to understand is you look fine, right? You appear fine. You function fine some of the time. But inside, what you have going on, right? The thoughts that go through your head, the thoughts that don't go through your head, like just everything. And you power through it and you struggle through it. And in all of this, guys, she continues to help other people. She's on my coaching group and she will put stuff out there every Wednesday for me and on Mondays, like Mind Reset Monday and
Mind Reset
Wisdom Wednesday.
Monday.
Yeah. And then she does like a Wednesday thing. And now she's in my Essential Embrace group. And right now she's doing a 21-day positive affirmation. Okay. Like, seriously, positive affirmation when you should just be like, oh my God, screw this. Like, life sucks. And I'm all done helping people because that's what got me here. But she does it. She does it every day. She wants to help. She will jump anytime I need her or want something. I mean, I had a presentation that I thought I had to do that's another story. And she was right there. And she's like, "What do you need? What can I help you with?" I mean, I feel like shit, but let's do this. And she's looking up statistics for me and she's just an amazing, wonderful person. I'm so blessed to have her in my life. And I told her when I make it big, when I start making money, when the funds come, we're going to see Sarah, our financial advisor, who is another coach in our group, in France, right? But again, we joke a lot because we have to, right? Because so we're on opposite sides of the fence as far as I did not get the vaccination. Dawn did because they told her actually that it would help her with her symptoms, and it hasn't, unfortunately. And we're talking about like
Right,
the
right.
division, right? The disconnect and the divide between everybody. And a lot of it is because of politics and because of mandates and because of choices. But yet we sit here and we've met each other and we've become great friends despite our differences, right? Despite how we
Because
feel or what we
it's the
thought
common
about.
it's the commonalities, it's the things that matter are the things that the compassion, caring, and empathetic person,
Mhm,
that makes you do your job and why I've been a nurse for 37 years. Um, we are people who want to help others, and
mhm,
it doesn't do anyone any good for me to treat you differently because you didn't get the vaccine. Um,
mhm,
my nephew hasn't gotten it. I wish he would because we live in an area between Baltimore and Washington, D.C. It's very densely populated. The numbers are high, and he's 21 years old, so you can't tell him anything, but I wish he would, but again, it's his choice. I just ask him
Mhm.
to please be careful and don't go around your grandparents. You know,
Yeah.
be careful. But the thing is that we've all been struggling as essential workers for a year and a
Right.
half with very little support. And now
Mhm.
to create a divide when we really need
Mhm.
to be supporting and uplifting each other, because we're
Yeah.
all tired. We're all at the end of our rope. And that's why I like Essential
Mhm.
Embrace. And that's why I'm doing the 21-day positive affirmations, because I want people to know that it doesn't matter what your political stand is. We're people
Mhm.
and we need to treat each other kindly.
And here's the
That's it.
thing. So people like me, right? I lost my job because I chose not to get the vaccine. And so now I have, no income as of right now, and not doing very well financially. But again, like you said, like, so you're suffering from COVID, I'm suffering from financial stuff right now, but yet we're both still wanting to help everybody, and we're both still doing everything we can every day to do that in some way, somehow, right, for free for people. And it doesn't matter whether, like, I have a job or I don't have a job because of it, or because someone else does have a job and is still working. We're all suffering in a different way, right? We know the burnout just in general in healthcare, and then on top of it with COVID, right? And now these people who are left behind, I'll be honest with you, I think sometimes they have it worse than I do, being let go because of even more shortage and burnout, and just things still continuing with the COVID chaos and everything else. And I actually feel bad for them too. So it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you got the vaccine, you didn't get the vaccine, you're working, you're not working. We are all in some way suffering, and even beyond that in everyday life, right? So, like,
Right.
I mean,
And
Dawn has 1,000 things that she could not be grateful for, but she chooses not to. She chooses to focus on the positive stuff, what she can still provide for people. And like I said, she is truly a blessing to so many people. And that's why, when I was thinking about Essential Embrace becoming bigger, and hopefully, like, at the start of next year, to be able to offer more programs and get more funding and to be able to provide income for some people, including myself, um, which was not the intent originally. It was just a Facebook group to support people, and there was just a need, and God provides some way somehow. But I started to look for people that I knew that I wanted to take with me, and Dawn was definitely one of them. One of the first people I thought of, like, she's coming with me, we're doing this together.
well, and
And anything.
that's the other thing. The other thing is that, like, so you're not getting paid because you have been let go. I'm getting paid, but only because I have long-term insurance that I still pay for out of the
Mm,
long-term insurance that I get. I'm not getting
right.
any support from the government. I don't have any support from anything. There's nothing for all the healthcare or essential workers that got sick and have serious health issues like me.
Hmm. Hmm.
We don't have anyone paying our bills. We
And
didn't
that's
get waived.
appalling.
I didn't get any of my medical stuff waived, and people did, and I didn't. I have tens of thousands of dollars of bills from Johns Hopkins where I go because they're the specialists in my area for COVID long haul. And, there's no one paying my bills. I have to try to figure it out, and I'm using up all my savings,
And that's so disheartening and
living with my
so,
daughter.
yeah, it's so disheartening and so appalling because you gave your life to everyone, right? To take care of them through all of
Yes.
this. And if you got hurt yourself at work, broke your leg, did something else and got sick or something, you'd get TDI, unemployment, disability, whatever. Why the hell are you not getting it when you got COVID? You didn't ask to get COVID. Surely did not ask to be a COVID long hauler, and they won't give you anything. Like, that is just so disgusting. Um,
Yeah, well, I think
and
that
I just don't
rules
even
and
understand it.
things are coming. It's a slow thing. It's something that's never been
But it
seen
should fall.
before.
It should
Just
fall
like with
under.
you on your end, and
Yeah.
then me on the opposite end, we're in the same place. We got here different ways, but we're in the same
Yes.
boat.
Yes.
And
Yes.
hopefully the politicians
Mhm.
will figure out that maybe this isn't the best way to do it. I don't know.
Well, and if they don't, Dawn, we're going to figure out our own thing, right? We're going to do it our own way because that's what we do.
Yeah.
So, in that, we're going to be ending in a few minutes. And I just want to say, like I said, Beautifully Broken with Dawn Renee is the podcast, right? And I did an interview on there last week, and she has some other episodes, and she just talks about her struggles and her, I mean, I call it her incredibleness of like her journey and everything that she's been through. And in it all, she just constantly encourages everyone else. Like her ego, there is none. Like she doesn't even think about herself. It's always giving, giving, giving to everyone else. And thank you for that, Dawn, because not everybody does that or can do that. And other than that, she also has a website, Color Me Everything, right? Where we want to tell them you
Yes.
why don't you tell us just a little bit? We have a couple
So
minutes left.
so
Just tell us a
so
little
the
bit about
the
you.
podcast so the podcast I started because I want other people going through life-altering events like widows and long-term and chronic illness and job loss to know they're not alone. So I have a series I started last week. It's every Thursday. I have podcasts come out on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Every Thursday is one of the series called Faces of Widowhood, and I interview widows. And they all have different stories, and it's about how they became widowed, how it affected them, and how they've survived and moved forward and continued living after the loss of their spouse. So that's on the podcast. And then my website, I started doing art and writing again and doing poetry as brain rehab after I got sick. So I started taking photos that I had taken and poetry I'd written and creating photo art. And then I turned into designing t-shirts and mugs and pillowcases and whatever. So there's what I call widow gear. There's widow humor. I mean, let's face it,
Tell us about the
that's a thing.
unicorn. Tell us about the unicorn
Oh,
one.
yeah, my favorite one, and I don't have the mug with me, but my favorite one is, I wish I was a unicorn so I could stab idiots with my head, and you can get that in a T-shirt or a mug. I gave my daughter-in-law the T-shirt, this weekend, and she, like, fell in love with it, so, yeah, so there's things, all sorts of things there, and it just gives me something to do. It is a creative outlet for me,
Mhm.
but there's also, you know, my story is on there. My blog is a link to my blog on my website. And I talk about some of the courses in positive self esteem and self speak. And it's called Finding Your Happy, Finding Your Inner Diva, things that I've been doing to help myself heal and to be able to keep
Mhm.
moving forward since my husband died. And I've created courses that I'm hoping after the first of the year, I'll be able to mentally and physically be able to commit to doing those. And
No, no,
figuring
no,
out
no,
how to
no.
get them as
Dawn,
digitals.
you will, because I will help you do that. And if you can't mentally get there, I'll be the other half of your brain. I think both half of our brains
Yeah.
together will work. So, guys, this woman
I'm
is
trying to
incredible.
figure
Thank
out
you,
how to
Dawn.
make it be a digital.
Thank you for coming on and being here and telling your story. I appreciate it. I appreciate you. Guys, you can find me on Facebook on Essential Embrace. It's for all essential workers, and we provide all kinds of information and free resources. And even if you live in the area, free yoga classes and stuff. So please hop on there, become a member if you are an essential worker who is suffering in any way from anything. It's self care for healthcare. I'm working with IHS, which is a nonprofit integrative healthcare solutions, who is helping to fund the programs, and we're going to just continue to grow and to help more and more people. And so you can catch us here every Tuesday at 8 p.m. on the Coalition Talk Radio Show, and it will be aired other places. But that's it for tonight, and we'll see you next week.